Now, Australia Day is also an occasion for recognising and honouring those selfless Australians who devote themselves to serving their country. Fittingly, they are admitted to an elite group, the Order of Australia. But this year, we were taken back by one name, the ABC's medical reporter, Dr Mr Swan, who is recognised for his significant service to the broadcast media as a science and health commentator throughout Australia's COVID-19 response. The ABC said in a statement, Mr Swan is one of Australia's best-known and most trusted broadcasters in the field of health and science. In recent years, Norman has become known nationally as one of the most respected and trusted voices on the COVID-19 pandemic, co-hosting the popular CoronaCast podcast since early 2020. Well, that certainly wasn't the case just a couple of months ago.
Showing that the risk of multi-organ damage with repeated infection either just keeps on, it doesn't go down with repeated infection, it either stays the same or goes up. And this is the problem, and it's not strongly related to the severity of the infection that you get. You know, and my view is that it's too much of a coincidence that Shane Warne and the Labour senator in Victoria died not long after a COVID infection. And people are reporting sudden death after a COVID infection. It's not benign.
In a thought bubble that gobsmacked just about everyone, Swan concluded the deaths of cricketer Shane Warne and Senator Kimberly Kitching were due to complications following COVID. However, he had no knowledge of their medical histories before he published that false claim, and the late Senator Kitching never even caught COVID. Former Deputy Chief Medical Officer Nick Coatsworth was quick to discredit Swan's claims.
The study he was referring to that talked about increased arterial thrombosis, so clots in the arteries that could potentially lead to a heart attack, that study itself was conducted in 2020. This was pre-vaccine, pre the Omicron waves, pre the amount of hybrid immunity we've got in the community.
As the Australian later reported, the ABC confirmed Swan had breached editorial standards. But that was just one of many times during this pandemic where Swan made critical mistakes.
So the predictions at the moment, if this hockey stick doesn't change that much, is that we'll be out of ICU beds in New South Wales. Victoria will be behind that by April 10th. And in that case, ICU physicians will be faced with some very difficult decisions.
That was Swan predicting live on television at the start of the pandemic that ICU wards would be overwhelmed. It was alarmist, contrary to expert advice, and needless to say, never eventuated. Just like his prediction that Sydney's Northern Beaches outbreak of 2020 would overwhelm authorities.
So the precautionary principle would be locking down Greater Sydney and really holding that for about 2 weeks. We've been relying in New South Wales on the absolute fantastic work of the contact tracers. It is truly amazing. They're working incredibly hard. It's to the great credit of everybody, including New South Wales, that they've got that system going, but it won't take long for that to be overwhelmed.
And here is Swan with more fear-mongering.
If I was, I think they're panicking would be my guess behind the scenes, because we've loaded the dice on Astra. If Astra turns out to be a problem, then we've got very little backup here in Australia in terms of immunisation. I still maintain that if that's the only vaccine we had, we'd be okay with it, but it's not performing as well as the other vaccines.
And in 2021, he made this bizarre claim again on live television.
I don't think this has been tried anywhere else in the world, where you're trying to use vaccination to curb an outbreak. And in a sense, New South Wales, the residents of New South Wales are or at least Greater Sydney, are guinea pigs in this, to see whether or not, if you can really intensify vaccination, can you bend the curve downwards.
Swan should not have a job in the media, let alone be recognised alongside our most accomplished Australians. Daisy Cousins, what do you make of that choice to join him to this very, very distinguished group?
You know what, Jack? I really don't know. I I saw this pick and I thought, okay, on the one hand, yes, okay, he has had a long career as a journalist. I think he said he trained as a doctor, and then after what he said was a midlife crisis in his late 20s, I believe he decided to join the media. So, okay, he's been around for a while, but does he really deserve this highest honor? I mean, in recent years, what most people will remember him as, for instance, in my opinion, is for exactly what you pointed out, the fact that prediction after prediction after prediction he made about COVID turned out not just to be wrong, but sort of monstrously wrong. And it was such a shame that he'd been up there saying that, because in my opinion, he terrified so many people. So the fact he was sort of looked to continually as one of the leading lights of, pandemic expertise was really kind of laughable, because he just kept getting things so wrong. So honestly, I'm completely nonplussed as to why he would get this award. Maybe they've chosen to overlook all of that stuff. Who knows? Perhaps they had. He sort of tickled the kind of state mummy, state daddy feelsies of a lot of big government enthusiasts. Maybe they're picking the awards. I'm not sure. But either way, God bless him for getting the award. But really, is he really amongst our best and brightest? I'm not so sure, in my opinion.